What's up everyone, it's Obli. Today I want to speak about some new DK changes. So hurrah! Unholy's been massively buffed and I want to talk about that. I'm a little bit poorly, so my voice is not fantastic. However, there's no way I'm not going to speak about this. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So the first thing to talk about is Frost. So Frost had some bug fixes, and one of these bugs was the Frozen Dominion was stacking itself up to 5 on single target, and they wanted to change that. Obviously that shouldn't happen that way, so they fixed that, which means that our single target could be lower. However, they have buffed things like Obliterate to compensate for that, to give us more single target. They also changed the way Empower Rune Weapon does damage. It now scales with Mastery, and it counts as Shadow Frost damage, so it will go towards your Reaper's Mark proccing. Speaking of Reaper's Mark, they did buff the Deathbringer tier set, just increasing Exterminate damage, which is actually massive because Exterminate does a serious amount of damage just as a whole. Not too sure why they did that, but I'll take it, that's good. But then they also buffed the Riders build as well. So Trollbane now scales with Mastery, and he just does a little bit more damage. So that's pretty good, that's not too bad. I think whether or not this means that you're going to be playing Riders instead of Deathbringer, I can't see that. Deathbringer just does too much damage. It's such good upfront burst, it's guaranteed, as in like you can actually play around it, you can command when you want this damage to come. I still think Deathbringer will be the play here. Now speaking of Riders, Whitemane for Unholy used to do a bit too much damage. She scaled with Mastery twice, so they fixed that bug, but they have also buffed her a little bit as well to compensate for that, which I think is good. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting for Unholy. We had our Mastery change, where each point of Mastery also increases our critical strike damage, not chance, damage of our minions and diseases, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the choice node that we received during the rework as well. Does this change how you gear? Honestly, it's too early to tell. I don't think I would be able to sit here and say anything in concrete until the sim gods bless us with that precious information, really. My only gripe with it is the fact that it only increases minion and disease damage, and diseases aren't doing that much damage as is. Minions are doing an okay amount, but Clawing Shadows and Bursting Swords just does so much and is basically the powerhouse of our kit, especially in Mythic Plus. So for it not to affect that, it's a bit sad, but I can understand why. The next great change is the fact that they upped the amount of targets that the Menacing Mages can hit from 4 to 8. That's great. Now, we're going to be some sort of 8 target gods. I think this is nuts. Bursting Swords kept to 8, Menacing Mages doing 8. I think realistically a build where you're Menacing Mages and Bursting Swords and you just don't really care about diseases is probably going to be, I think that's going to be a top build. But just to further accentuate that, they buffed Legion of Souls a substantial amount as well, because Legion of Souls now is influenced by Commander of the Dead and Unholy Aura. So at the end of a key, you will see Legion of Souls doing a load of damage. So every 1.5 minutes, you're going to have a massive amount of AoE that you don't really need to focus too much on, because you're basically just going to be doing Legion of Souls, Desecrate, Bursting Swords, and those two alone will do a massive amount. With the way that they're changing minion damage and disease damage, I can imagine Riders, you just full focus into the minion damage, and then when you're doing Sand Lane, that's when the disease damage comes out. So disease damage isn't just in the bin, it's just not really that focused on a Rider's perspective, but then as soon as you go into Sand Lane, things change and disease is much more important again. In addition to that, Epidemic, Death Coil, and Festering Wound bursting damage all was increased. Would that change your rotation at all? No. Clawing Shadows and Bursting Swords, if you're talented into both of those, will still do the highest amount of damage per global, so you're probably still looking to do that all the time. And then they buffed Harbinger of Doom, so Death Coil and Epidemic damage is even more increased when you do have one of these procs. And I think that's good. That talent I don't think you really want to drop, because you're often casting your Sudden Doom procs to spawn Mages via the Doomed Bidding, because I think if you're going Menacing Mages, you're definitely going Doomed Bidding. So for you to have Harbinger to work in conjunction with all of those, it synergizes very well. So that's just a welcome change. Also made it so that Legion of Souls would benefit from Unholy Aura and Commander of the Dead as well, just further increasing the sheer amount of AoE damage that it can really do. And then lastly, Sand Lane received a little bit of love as well. So we had our Forset buffed. Blood Beast was actually buffed, but I don't know if it was buffed enough to make it the same sort of stature that it had before. I don't think it's going to be the apex of AoE damage like it was. But then also Frenzied Bloodthirst buffed too, just to increase Death Coil damage even further. Okay, so the changes weren't massive. They were just small fixes, a little bit of tuning here and there. In terms of the playstyle, I think it'd be difficult at this point for them to change anything. Frost, don't touch it. Frost, leave it well enough alone. It plays well, it does good damage everywhere. Please, John Blizzard, don't get any ideas. Frost is fine. Unholy, on the other hand, I would welcome an Unholy playstyle change. I don't personally enjoy it very much, the playstyle at the moment. It could just be I'm playing it wrong. I don't think so, but for me, I'm leaning heavily into Frost right now. They realistically would have to adjust the tuning quite a lot for Unholy to be better than Frost, because everything Unholy can do, Frost can do better, and Frost can do it all. Frost can do it all at the same time. One of the benefits of Frost was the fact that playing Breath, you had good single target, and you have good AoE, and you have good 2-target cleave. Pretty much always. With the Frost Scythe buff, where its damage is increased from 3 times when you consume a killing machine to 4 times, anytime when you're playing dual wield, if there's 2 targets or more, you're Frost Scything. When you're playing 2-hander, if there's 3 targets or more, you're doing Frost Scythe. But for Unholy, my opinions on the Unholy changes is decent, good. I like it. It's a push in the right direction. Playing it, after I did some testing yesterday on the PTR, yeah, it still doesn't play well. It still doesn't feel nice. The damage is okay. The damage is there, but it just doesn't doesn't feel good to do it. Desecrate feels quite nice to press if you just basically just double Desecrate. If you're popping loads of wounds all at the same time with Desecrate, then it feels good. If not, doesn't feel fantastic. Okay, so that's basically all the changes wrapped up in a nutshell in quick format for you guys. Let me know what kind of changes you would like to see implemented in the next PTR build. Do you think both specs are in a good spot? Do you think Unholy needs to be changed anymore? Is it fine? Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think. So leave that in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe, and then follow me if you want to know more DK info coming in Season 3. Love you all very much. Take care. Bye.